Okay, and may I ask Tao Di and Ryota Doi to the stage, please? Welcome.
Morning, everybody. Today we would like to talk about the trends in type design industry in China and Japan. First of all, let's give you a brief introduction about ourselves. My name is Tao, and I'm a type designer at Monotype China. Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm based in Shanghai, and I mainly design Chinese and Latin.
And I'm Ryota, a type designer at Monotype Japan, based in Tokyo, and I mainly design Japanese and Latin.
Although we work in different locations, we communicate frequently to develop our designs in CJK scripts. As many of you here know, China and Japan share a common use of ideograph. In China, it is called hanzi, and in Japan, it is called kanji. Because we share the same writing system, we see many similarities in trends. On the other hand, it is true that we also see differences due to the economic environment and cultural differences. Today, we will explore these similarities and differences by illustrating examples of what we have discovered in our daily life and in our works. First, let's take a look at the street of Shanghai, China. This is Nanjing Walking Street, one of the most crowded streets in Shanghai. As you can see, there are many brushstroke typefaces are used in China. From left to right, there's a watch store, a food store, and optician, and a winery. Now look to the right. There's a restaurant and another food store. The interesting thing is that they all use brushstroke typefaces, which are widely used in the science across various industries due to their attractiveness and reliability.
Right. Next, let us take a look at the streets of Tokyo, Japan. This is Shinjuku Kabukicho, one of the most crowded places in Tokyo. First of all, there is a big difference between China and Japan in terms of typography. The most significant difference is the use of hiragana and katakana, as well as ideographs. There are also differences in typesetting between the two countries. Vertical typesetting can be seen in China in limited spaces, such as a signboard that Tao showed us earlier. But in China today, typesetting is basically done horizontally, as Eric explained in his presentation just now. And in Japan, on the other hand, both vertical and horizontal typesetting are used. In this picture, for example, this is the horizontal typesetting, and this is vertical typesetting. Both typesetting is used flexibly depending on the situation. Now I'll talk about the difference between China and Japan in terms of the typeface used. As you saw earlier, many brushstroke typefaces are used in China, whereas here, many sans-serif typefaces are used in Japan. Of course, it is easy to imagine that in places like Kyoto in Japan, for example, where there are many historical buildings, brushstroke typefaces are used often. Here are some photos I took in Kyoto this year. As you can see, brushstroke typefaces are used not only for historical signs, but also for signs that seems to have been installed recently. Even the warning sign in the lower right photo uses a brushstroke typeface. But in places like Tokyo, where there is a rapid turnover of signs in the city center, sans-serif typefaces may tend to be used more as they are clearer and more eye-catching.
Here, we would like to share a little basic knowledge about Chinese and Japanese fonts to help you better understand our presentation. In China, Song-style and He-style typefaces are the one mainly used. In Japan, they are called Mingchou and Gothic, which are also many styles used. Generally, serif style is widely used in body text in newspapers, magazines, and novels, while sans-serif style is commonly used in headlines. However, on electronic devices or screens, sans-serif are preferred. There are also brushstroke typefaces and display typefaces, which can be used in different ways to enrich the graphic expression. He-style and Gothic are combined with sans-serif font, while Song-style and Mingchou are combined with a serif font. Despite China and Japan sharing the use of ideographs, some characters are written differently. China and Japan have different standards for writing. The interesting thing is that although they are written differently, people across different regions can recognize them all. Ideographs can be designed with large or small counters. Those with large counters will give a solid industrial impression because there will be fewer gaps between letters when they are typeset. On the other hand, those with small counters often give more human impression, more like handwritten text. Recently, both in China and Japan, typefaces with small counters tend to be more common. This will be analyzed in more detail again later in our presentation.
In our presentation, we'll touch on our indicators and thoughts regarding the trend. It's important to consider the time frame of trends. Due to the complexity of characters, China and Japan face challenges in annual font production. Monitoring trends over several decades will be necessary for public signage and custom fonts for major companies. Conversely, trends in advertisements, magazines, journals, and so on and so forth, commonly seen on the street, change over shorter periods. The duration of trend in China and Japan tends to be slightly longer compared to the West, influenced by factors such as character complexity and the conservative nature of the population, particularly in Japan. In addition, font trends differ depending on their usage context, but we'd like to explore how they can be generally categorized. We've chosen classified fonts along two axes and into four categories. The first axis encompasses emotional and rational characteristics, while the second axis covers industrial and humanistic attributes.
Until around 1990, Chinese fonts were predominantly emotional and humanistic, which is the upright hand side of the chart. Afterwards, up to now, industrial and rational fonts have become increasingly prevalent. The typefaces before 1990, around 1990, were mostly digitized from the hot metal type, while later, with the advent of low-resolution computers, wide counters fonts gradually began to rise in popular and have been widely used. Although in the past few years, there has been a gradual appreciation for humanist fonts among graphic designers in mainland China. Overall, the number of such fonts is not substantial, and they have not yet been widely used, so I didn't put them on the chart.
In Japan, fonts in the upper right part of the chart were dominant until around 1970, which was earlier than the shift observed in China. Then, industrial and rational fonts took over until 2000. Currently, there is a return to emotional and humanistic fonts with a growing preference for more neutral ones. These fonts have narrow counters and subtle nuances resembling brushstrokes, fitting the upper right part of the chart. Conversely, fonts with wider counters and intentionally crafted shapes belong to the lower left part. In Japan, UD font, short for Universal Design Fonts, have been utilized since the early 2000s, which was mentioned by Min-Yon in her presentation on the first day of this conference. Although the term has gained recognition, I believe their popularity remains limited to specific industries or fields. Here is what the Japanese font in each category look like. When comparing China and Japan's trends, notable differences emerge despite the shared use of ideographs, likely influenced by various factors including economic development. Today we'll focus on a specific field and give an example. There are many different fields, but we have chosen the automotive industry as an example. First, I will explain in the Chinese case.
This is GWM Sans, a custom font for Great Wall Motor, including Latin and Chinese. Great Wall Motor is a global intelligent technology company engaged in automobile and parts design, R&D, production, sales, and service. Its brand portfolio includes Haval, We, Aura, Tank, and GWM Pickup. In the Chinese market, GWM SUVs and pickups have consistently been the sales leader for many years. Furthermore, on an international scale, GWM is one of the first Chinese auto enterprises to expand globally. GWM team is dedicated to improving user experience on HMI interfaces. Thus, with our full collaboration, GWM Sans was born. You can see the difference between it and the previous version. In Chinese part, compared to the past, the inner counter has become smaller, as if it has a waist, making the contrast of the outline more obviously and enhancing the legibility. Since the typeface is used in HMI interfaces, the font size will not be very large. Therefore, I remove the feet of the square radical, like here, reduce the details at the end of the strokes, making them more minimal and while maintaining the legibility. It is also give them the industrial feel, aligning with the brand's industrial attributes. On this page, we can see the difference in tracking. In the previous version, the tracking was too tight, and now the reliability has improved. In the Latin part, I've opened up the letter forms, say the uppercase G, and I'm preserving more Latin writing characteristics. See the lowercase r, e, and a. At the same time, I increased the X height and cap height to create more inner contours. And also I've adjust the spacing and kerning to make it more balanced and easier to read at the smaller size. Today, ideographs with large contours remain popular in China, automotive and industrial industries, but this style inherently poses reliability issues. The humanist style is gradually becoming popular in China. GWM Sans combines the humanist skeleton with minimal strokes and middle-sized contours to achieve balanced spacing and enhance reliability on screens. Please look forward to seeing examples of actual use when the official version is released. Chinese auto companies are developing rapidly, with typefaces playing a crucial role in improving their user experience. Okay.
Thanks, Joe. Speaking of the automotive industry, there is an interesting example of custom fonts in Japan. Bridgestone is a large tire company with branches all over the world, and we created this custom font for them in order to create a unified international branding. It was a big project, took several years to complete, actually more than 5 years, starting with a company-wide discussion about the importance of the font, and ultimately developing a condensed font and a wide range of weights. In Japan, where the design world has matured in some ways, projects often proceed with caution, and the Bridgestone project is one such example. This is also different from China, where projects move forward at great speed. Also, in terms of design, as you can see, it has a humanistic softness and brightness. The rounded corners treatment gives a softer impression. The wide open counters also help to create a bright impression while ensuring the readability. In Japan's industrial and automotive industries, typefaces with an industrial appearance like Euro style are very popular. But the fact that these humanized typefaces are beginning to be adopted shows the difference in the overall trend of the industry. This is an area where we see similarities with China. As you can see, it is clear that humanist design has become one of the major trends. Tazgane Gothic, released in 2017, was designed to match Neue Frutiger and is now one of the most representative Japanese typefaces. Here's an example of how sans-serif typeface design in Japan has changed over the years, from the 1970s to the 2010s. All of these typefaces are used in public places and other places where many people can see them. Gona, released in 1975, is a typeface with large counters and letter faces and a well-balanced overall density. Since its release as a font for photo typesetting, it has been used in many situations, such as train stations and street signs, and has become a familiar face. Next is Hiragi no Kaku Gothic. This typeface has been seen by many people since its release in 1993, when it was adopted as the standard font for Mac and iPhone. Recently, we saw it used as a sign font for Shinjuku Station, one of Tokyo's busiest train stations. It is a neutral-looking sans serif with a smaller letter face than Gona and a slight handwritten impression. Finally, we have Tuscany Gothic, which we used as an example earlier, and which has more humanistic design with more handwritten feel than Gona or Hiragi no Kaku Gothic. Recently, Tuscany was adopted as a typeface for signage system of the entire Shibuya ward, which has as many people coming and going as Shinjuku, and is visited by many international tourists. Once again, let us take a look at the three typefaces in comparison. By comparing them in this way, I think it is easy to see the changes in design. I think it is due to a combination of reasons brought by the time changes. But one of the trends is the increasing demand for human-like and warm design. Additionally, there is another reason why Tuscany is used in crowded urban centers such as Shibuya Ward is because of its multilingual capability. Tuscany includes Neue Frutiger, but instead of combining them as they are, the original Neue Frutiger has been enlarged and the baseline has been shifted downwards before merging. As is true of both Chinese and Japanese fonts, characters such as Chinese ideographs appear larger than Latin fonts because they are designed based on a 1,000 unit square. To improve this appearance, many designers combine Latin fonts by enlarging them. In addition, since the enlarged font appears to be slightly higher than the original, the baseline needs to be adjusted as well. Tuscany Gothic was designed to do this in advance and save the designer the trouble of using the font. Now let's see how Tuscany is put into practical use. In Japan, it's quite common to find the signs written in both English and Japanese. Additionally, if you take a look at the bottom of the three panels in the photo, you'll notice the presence of three alphabet letters N, H, and K, followed by kanji characters, and then katakana, which is unique to Japan. Because of this usage, a high-quality Japanese typeface with both the Japanese and Latin parts of the typeface visually aligned is highly valued. In addition, there are many other places in Japan where Chinese and Korean are written side by side with Japanese and English, so it will be commonplace in the future to produce high-quality typefaces with multilingual development in mind. Now, of course, the trend toward multilingual development is not limited to Japan, but is also a challenge for China, which is experiencing remarkable economic growth. Tao will now talk about the situation in China.
Let's take a look at this case. This is Mi Sans Global, a multilingual custom font of Xiaomi, which is a leading global technology company that focuses on creating innovative consumer electronics. Established in 2010, Xiaomi has quickly become one of the world's largest smartphone manufacturers, and it has gained a strong presence and a loyal users base worldwide. Monotype Studio designed Thai, Lao, and 9 Hindi scripts for Mi Sans help them provide local services to all their users around the world. This is GFF Type, a custom font for a famous first-person shoot game, Free Fire. Free Fire is a highly popular mobile battle royale game developed and published by Garena. It became the most downloaded mobile game globally in 2019 and has over $1 billion downloads. $1 billion downloads, on Google Play Store. Monotype Studio designed a Latin and several small languages for GFF type. Help Free Fire players around the world experience the most intense battlegrounds together. As you can see, in China, large companies in different industries are focusing on customizing their own fonts. And unlike in Japan, most of the fonts you can see on the streets of China are free fonts. Pin fonts is not yet a common practice in China. Now that we have focused on the long-term trends used in large companies and public places, we would like to look at what typefaces are being used recently as examples of short-term trends. In 2023, there was a popular open-source font known for its high reliability as a highline font. It is highly expressive, but not too fancy, match the lifestyle of the young generation, and found widespread use in social media, advertising, and even as book covers.
In Japan, there is a rising trend of typefaces mimicking pen strokes, conveying a human touch with lightness. Notice how the letters on the screen are thin, with consistent thickness and a sense of speed. Another example is this subtitle font with uniform lines and a hand-drawn appearance, evoking emotion. The monolinear and light movement of the font seems to have something in common with the fonts that are popular in China. Another recent trend is return of the serif. Noted in Monotype's annual trends report, not only in Japan and China, but globally. You can find the report on Monotype's website. Here's a recent photo from Takanawa Gateway Station in Tokyo using a Mincho or serif font. Similarly, Harajuku Station employed serif style. Interestingly, station names on buildings' main gates are in serif, while signs on the lower left are Gothic or sans serif, possibly for legibility. Serif fonts are becoming symbolic, while sans serif is seen as functional. The functionality of serif fonts is debatable. In Hong Kong, some street signs now use serif fonts instead of sans serif, leading to different views. A colleague from Hong Kong mentioned that younger people find it fresh, but there are ongoing concerns regarding legibility. Further discussion on proper font usage is needed.
We looked for differences in trends between China and Japan and identified variations in the typefaces used in urban areas and progression of custom font projects. The analysis also made it more apparent that the demand for multilingual support as a shared trend between the two countries is a similarity that cannot be ignored. Although there is a limited number of Chinese and Japanese fonts released annually, with a larger character set than Latin fonts, it remains challenging to pinpoint trends due to the daily emergence of diverse typefaces that reshape the global design landscape. However, in instances such as public signage and custom fonts favored by large companies, these fonts are often used for a long period, providing valuable insights into significant design trends. We have seen that the long-time trends in China and Japan are different, but as at this point, we do not know whether the trends will intersect in the next couple of decades or whether they will go in completely different directions in the coming years. So we will continue to track these developments as we pioneer typeface design. Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Well, thank you, Tao and Ryota. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions because it's lunchtime. Yay! So we'll see you back here at 3 o'clock.
It was perfect. Perfect. On time.